Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and with me here today is Omega. Introduce yourself.
Hello, Internet. My name is Omega, or Crystal Omega on YouTube. I'm a fan of a lot of multimedia stuff, including cartoons, film, and video games, and I also run a YouTube channel. I'm glad to be here today.
Yeah, happy to have you on, because we got some interesting movies to talk about. Let's talk about the first one. Garfield Gets Real.
Mm-hmm.
Or as I like to say, Garfield Gets Real.
Yeah, this is a real movie.
It was a real movie, that's right.
Yeah.
I was sort of glad you recommended this. So one, it's a DVD that I own that's just kind of in this pile of DVDs that I just have randomly, just because I've amassed a huge collection of them over the years. So it's good to get stuff like this. It's good to have stuff like this have their episodes, because I want to really watch them and get an idea of whether I want to keep these in the collection. And I also was fascinated because this movie is part of an ongoing sub-series in my in this entire podcast. What I mean by that is it's a movie directed by a guy named Mark A.Z. DePay. I think that's how you say his name.
Oh,
I did. And the reason I bring that up is because so far, this is the third movie I've talked about on this podcast of his, because the first one I talked about was Frankenfish. The next one was Marmaduke 2022. Obviously, Marmaduke 2022 has become kind of a staple of this channel, unfortunately, but yeah, now it's movie number 3. It's Garfield Gets Real.
Oh, when are you gonna get to Spawn? Because he also did that.
Oh, that'll be like the series finale or something.
Yeah, that's his origin as director, which I was so surprised that he directed that. Like, I was because I was curious about who directed this movie, and I was like, he directed Spawn? So you go from Spawn to Garfield Gets Real, and it was so funny.
It's also really funny because like Spawn is like his most popular movie on Letterboxd, so it's like, oh, he peaked with Spawn.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, let's be real here. He peaked with Marmaduke 2022. There's no going beyond that. You've reached enlightenment when you make something like Marmaduke 2022. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding, though. Spawn is your peak, and, well, we all know that Faust is the better Spawn. But anyway, that's regardless of all that bullshit. Omega, what did you think of Garfield Gets Real? Was it real enough for you?
So before I say what I think about this movie, I just want to quickly go over why I picked this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm dying to know.
So this is a movie I actually watched a lot when I was little, because when I was little, I was in love with the live action movies, the Bill Murray ones, and I was itching to watch more Garfield stuff, and
you needed that Garfield itch.
Yeah, I needed that. I needed to watch like an animated Garfield thing, because I didn't know where to watch the old cartoon from, and the CG show wasn't out yet. So when I learned that, there's a directed DVD movie, I was so excited because, it's an animated Garfield movie. That sounds super cool. And when I watched that movie like I think 4 or 5 times when I was a kid, it was a lot. And then I watched the 2 sequels, not as much, but Fun Fest and Pet Force. And then I didn't watch any of those for like a decade. Like, the last time I watched this movie when I was like, I don't know, 11 or 12. It was a while back. And when I finally saw the movie on your list, I was like, maybe I should revisit this. I think it'd be a good one.
Yeah.
So I watched it yesterday with my friend, and after watching it, I was just like, this was nothing. This movie was like, I was like, this is nothing. Like, that's the best I could describe this entire movie. It was nothing. Like,
it was nothing.
Garfield Gets Real, more like Garfield Gets Unreal.
Yeah,
like,
it's unreal.
Like, this say what you will about the live action movies. Like, I'm not gonna say they're peak cinema or anything like that, but like, I would rather watch those over Garfield Gets Real. This movie was just, I was honestly kind of more bored by it than anything. Like,
interesting.
Like, it's like, I wouldn't call it like one of the worst movies I've ever seen or anything like that, but it was definitely a movie I just didn't feel much. I just felt almost nothing from it, aside from like a couple of good things I could say about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a product of its time. Like you said, you watched it a lot as a kid. I think I watched it once because it was like playing on Cartoon Network one day randomly. Because I feel like that's kind of what this movie was made for, was like being like a movie of the week on like Cartoon Network or something like that. Just like this short generic kids movie, but like you go back and you watch it and you're just like, wait, they showed this to kids? Like, what? Just because it's, yeah, but you know what, you're right, it's really disappointing in that it's really, really just a big old nothing. I also watched it with like friends and we were sort of struggling. Like, I was trying to get whatever material I could out of it, but like, my God, like, yeah, what an unpleasant movie experience. Just from how boring it was.
Yeah, and not even like funny bad. It's just not that interesting, which is weird because I don't know where I read this from, but apparently this movie was like, I think John Davis, the creator of Garfield, said the idea of this movie he's had for a while. I can't verify if that's true, but I think I've read somewhere that he said that he's had this idea for this movie for a while, like before, and
that's just strange to me. That this is your baby. This Jim. Are you serious? It's like, so one thing I want to start off with is the world building. I know I'm going to sound insane. It's like, oh, the world building of Garfield Gets Real. But like, no, it makes no sense, first of all. Because like, it's trying to be Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you have like, oh, the cartoon characters are real. But like, so first of all, they're comic characters, but they set up how they make the comics as if it's like a movie, because they have like a set, they have like a camera, they have like a director directing them. But then it's like, no, they're just taking pictures of them and then the text pops up later. And then also the projector that they use is also like an interdimensional projector that, they can see through like different newspapers.
Yeah.
It's like,
and they could
Jim, what are you doing? Like, this is way too complicated for a Garfield movie. Do you realize that? Like,
yeah. And also the thing with the newspaper spying on humans, that's super suspicious.
Yeah, like, what? Who came up with that? Well, Jim did. Why? Why did you do this, Jim? Like, this makes no sense. And I say it's like Roger Rabbit because, yeah, you have this, like, you're taking these characters in this certain medium and bringing them to life and, like, kind of pulling back the curtain, if you will, into how they make this kind of stuff. And it's also like that because they have other characters showing up. So in like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, yes, you have Roger Rabbit, who's an original OC, Do Not Steal, but like you also have Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny and Daffy and Donald and Yosemite Sam, and you have all these like famous cartoon characters showing up. Whereas here, it's like, yeah, you have Garfield, and then you have Dagwood, and then you have the yellow dog from Mother Goose. I think that's what the comic is called.
I forget where he's from. I'm trying to remember where he's from. I'll see if I can look it up. And then I remember they mentioned Snoopy out of nowhere.
Yeah, they have like one reference to Snoopy, but as like, oh, I wonder what Snoopy's like. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Like, that's all you have. Like, that's your Avengers Endgame of comic newspaper comic characters.
Yeah.
It's they didn't even bring in Dilbert or Calvin and Hobbes, or I'm blanking on a bunch of them. Family Circus, for crying out loud. Like, I'm like, these aren't other great options. I mean, I'd prefer they didn't include Calvin and Hobbes, so I'm kind of glad they didn't. But like, I don't know.
Yeah,
would have been nice.
I don't know.
You know, something. You just like, it's just such a weirdly barren wasteland of opportunity here.
Like, honestly, I don't think it's a terrible idea. Like, the story is not a terrible idea, like the world and such, but like, it's just executed so poorly.
It, in a way, it kind of reminds it kind of, this is going to be a really out of left field comparison, but bear with me here. It's like how in the movie Thomas and the Magic Railroad, they like try to make it more grand and cinematic, but they just end up making it more confusing, because you're just like, wait, so Island of Sodor is like its own it's like its own dimension from opposed to the real world? Like, how does that work? It's the same thing here. It's like, okay, so Garfield is in this dimension of comic characters, and he can transfer between dimensions because newspapers are like a portal to a different dimension. How does that work? Like, what? Like, that's so random and stupid.
It's weird. Like, there's so much weird stuff about it. It just doesn't make any sense. And also, I gotta say, the cell shading in the cartoon world looks so off. Like, did you notice how off like the cell shading in the cartoon world looked?
You know what's funny is that I didn't even notice a difference between the cartoon world and the supposed quote unquote real world. Like, they looked the same, essentially. It's like, okay, this is supposed to be a cartoon character coming to the real world, but he's just in a different CGI location. I mean, I guess like in the comic world, like their edges were like a lot more defined with like the black lines, but like it was not that noticeable. Like, again, when Garfield went to the real world, like when Garfield got real, the titular scene where he got real, it literally had no impact, because it's just like, okay, again, you're just in a different CGI landscape. Garfield, like, what are you doing?
I will also say, like, his model does change a little bit, and there was one thing I did notice throughout the movie is that when he was in the real world, you know, he did get a different like character model, and what I noticed is that he kept switching from that model to the cartoon model, because the difference between both was like the real world model was more like a real cat, and then the cartoon model was more like how Garfield looked, and he kept switching through both of those models like in between scenes, and it's so like, it was so distracting. I don't know if you noticed it.
I didn't actually. That's interesting. Like, that probably would have been really clever had it been executed properly, which I don't think it was, because I didn't notice, but I guess you did. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's like a weird, like, I mean, it's not a huge difference, but like you can, like, if you compare to both models, you can see like how different they look, and it was like distracting to me just seeing like him switch between those models, like literally in between scenes. Like, there was a scene where he's like trying to present himself back to I think the CEO, like the corporation people, and he kept switching between the real world model and his cartoon model, and it was so distracting. I probably didn't notice it during that scene, because to segue into something I was excited to bring up for this movie, in that scene there's a scene where like there's a shot where like Garfield and Odie are looking from behind like a cardboard cutout or something. There's like the point is that there's like comic strips of Garfield like on the side, and one of those comics is like a like an edit of the actual comic of John saying the F word. I did see that.
Yeah, that's like something like this movie is infamous for. It's so strange, because like, and me and my friends, I like pause the movie to like really take a look, and it's it's undeniable. It is a panel of John going, "I'm a mushroom cloud layering motherfucker," and you're just like, whoa, like this aired on Cartoon Network. Like
This is for
obviously,
kids.
this is for kids. Obviously, I don't think kids would have noticed this on Cartoon Network because it's like a blink and you'll miss it. It's for us Garfield aficionados who would pause this to find this kind of stuff, but it's so bizarre and just such a really cursed aspect of this movie. And I love that about this movie. I love that that's a fact for this movie because like I just love when kids movies especially have such cursed facts like this attributed to it. It's like, I love that. I wish it was more defined, honestly, so then kids actually would have seen that on Cartoon Network.
When I was watching this with my friend, she was like, when she made us like rewind to that scene because I did know it was, and we were both like, what if a kid sees that little comic? He's like, and the kid's like, "Oh, mom, look at that comic on the screen," and then their parents like, "Oh my god, no!"
Yeah,
we were just imagining that, and it was so funny.
I'm a mushroom layering motherfucker. It's a Garfield quote for the ages. Oh man, what a bizarre movie. But like, not bizarre enough that it's like we were saying, it's not funny bad. Like it's just boring for most of the time. Like we got a few chuckles here and there, and again, like the not safe for work comic being featured is really fucking funny, but like I don't know, there's just not enough of this movie that like I was having as an unironically hilarious time as I probably would have wanted to. Or an ironic. Like I don't know, it's just not there. Like I love funny bad movies. Like they're some of the most fun I've ever had watching a movie, especially in like a group setting. Like we've had some real bangers over the years that I've seen, but like that's not this. And I was kind of hoping it would be. Like I'm disappointed with Garfield Gets Real, honestly. I never thought I'd say that, but I am.
Yeah, like I at least wanted to go into this movie like, okay, at least if it's bad, at least it will be like kind of funny bad. But no, I didn't laugh at all. Like I laughed at a couple jokes.
Sure.
And like the only like real compliments like I would give this movie is that I do like Frank Welker as Garfield. Like he's not like I don't think he's as good as Lorenzo Music, but I liked Frank Welker's Garfield. I don't think he's a bad Garfield.
I think thinking back to it, when I was a kid, I think one of my not earliest, but definitely one of my introductions to Garfield being voiced, like having a voice, would probably have been Frank Welker as Garfield in the Garfield show.
Yeah, because he didn't come. I think some of the voice actors from this movie came back for that. Like I know,
I think so.
I forget who voices John, but he I know he's also
isn't it like Wally Wingert or something?
Yeah, he's the Riddler in the Batman Arkham games.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I could so now whenever I think of Riddler, I think of John from Garfield.
John in that spider body from the Garfield show, like, riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Garfield show. Like, that is a bizarre show. But it's
that's a good point.
Like, it's more... That's a way more interesting to talk about and watch. Here, it's not. Like, it's bizarre, but not interesting at all. Like,
that's a good point, honestly. From what I remember, I mean, I don't remember a whole lot because it's been a while since I've seen the Garfield show, but like I feel like a lot of that show did stick with me, whether for better or for worse. It's kind of hard to tell, but like, yeah, I would sooner rewatch like episodes of the Garfield show just because of how bizarrely hilarious it could have gotten. Whereas like, yeah, here it's just boring and standard. It's really just, no, it was not real enough, honestly.
Yeah, he needed it. It was unreal.
Yeah, it was too unreal. We needed
Honestly,
it to be more real.
the best part of the movie is probably the title. That is the best part of the
Yeah,
movie.
it's such a funny title. It's so funny just to be like, Garfield gets real.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
like,
good for memes, but
yeah,
yeah, it's just a bore of a movie, and it just nothing
yeah,
happens, and it's hard
nothing
it's hard
happens.
for me to like come up with stuff to say about it just because
Yeah,
it's nothing, and that's
yeah,
it's very disappointing because I wanted to find some interesting things to say about it, but it's just like
mm-hmm.
the only things that compliment is some good voice acting, and there's a couple of creative things about it. Like as much as I'm not, as much as I think some of the character designs, like the originals, are kind of weird. I do kind of like the idea of the cartoon world, like kind of coming up when the sun comes up, like at the beginning. That was kind of neat to see,
Yeah, sure.
and how they actually get Garfield back was kind of creative, but that's kind of it. Like
Yeah,
it's just a boring movie aside from like the little things like that inappropriate comic.
yeah, exactly. When I think of a movie that actually pulls this kind of uh other world of characters living in the real world, when I think of movies that pull that off nicely, I think of stuff like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Wreck-It Ralph. You know,
Mm-hmm.
obviously because those movies are actually, good.
They're mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're good. Whereas like here, this doesn't have the advantage of being good, and it's just stupid. Like it just doesn't really take
Yeah.
advantage all that much. But I mean, it's disappointing that I didn't get a funny lol movie to like make fun of, but I guess I am glad I watched it because now I can make the decision of I don't want to keep this DVD. Um like at all. It's just not funny enough to keep in the collection. There's other movies that are funny bad that I would love to keep in the collection, but this is just not one of them. So
Yeah.
I'm unfortunately getting rid of it. 'Twas not to be.
Yeah. I didn't actually watch this on the DVD since I unfortunately didn't have it anymore. I just watched it on YouTube, so at least I
Oh, I
didn't.
watched it. I watched it on Tubi. I didn't actually watch the DVD either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I mean, it's not to kind of break the illusion or anything, but yeah. Sometimes I don't actually watch the movies on their DVDs. I just watch them on other means because like sometimes I want to watch them with people, and I don't have like any disc player hooked up to my computer, so I can't just play the disc. So yeah, I ended up watching this on Tubi with friends, but I mean, it's still the same movie on the disc.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
nothing. There's not like there's a 4K version of this movie.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
a
yeah,
4K of this would be hilarious because it would be getting a 4K before Titanic getting a
yeah,
4K.
yeah, and we'd see that comic in 4K.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
That
But
would
yeah.
be epic. And I also will say that the two sequels are not much better at all, from what I remember. Like Funfest, I just want to quickly tell you about those two. Just be very quick.
Please do.
In
Please do.
Funfest, so Garfield finds out that he's not funny. Like he doesn't find he finds out that he's not funny. So what he does is for this Funfest, he goes on a quest with Odie to find this funny water, and he tries to drink the funny water, but like he realizes that the funny was in me the entire time, and because
Oh.
he was told by the frog who's played by Barnacle Boy from SpongeBob. And he baits and then he and then he dances with Arlene and punches Normal in the face, who's like the bad guy in it.
Well, Nermal's always the bad guy in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I will
Wow.
say quickly about Get Real. I kind of did Normal was pretty good, even though he was
Mm,
only in the movie for like a minute or two.
yeah.
And then Pet Force is like, I don't remember much of Pet Force. The only thing I remember was that Liz was the bad guy in it. Because
Really?
yeah, because here's the thing: there's in the continuity of those three movies, Liz does not exist, but there's like an evil Liz who's like a super villain. It's based off like one of the old late 90s Garfield comics where they're superheroes.
What? I'm speechless. I'm sorry. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
think you're selling me on these movies, honestly. That
I mean,
probably wasn't your intention, but unfortunately you've sold me on them.
I mean, I guess I'd give them a watch if I watched Get Real, but like, I mean, I don't. Again, I didn't watch those two as much as the first one, but I do remember like the big things about them, especially Fun Fests with its flooding water. But like, it's funnier how I'm saying it compared to how it is in the movie because it's not. They're both not really that funny, even from what I remember. Ironically, I just
Well,
I mean, maybe they are. I don't know. I haven't seen them in like a decade,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
maybe they're
been a
better
while.
than Get Real, but still.
Maybe. Well, there's only one way to find out. William Mordo, watch out. I'm taking over movie night again.
Yeah, I'm.
uh,
But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Get Real other than there's also a DS game.
oh, is there?
Yes. And funny thing, I was gonna be like originally I was gonna be doing like I was researching like a couple Garfield games and I found out that FunFest also had a DS game, like the sequel to this, and FunFest DS game came out before Gets Real's DS game, which I don't know
Interesting.
how that
Yeah.
happened, but it just happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. They just made a game out of anything back in those days, didn't they?
Yeah, they made a game of March of the Penguins.
Did they really?
Yes.
What? That's real?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
it got real.
How? How? Like, how does that work?
It's like I think it's like a weird Worms type of clone. But yes, there's a game on the DS and Game Boy Advance.
Wow, that's that is funnier than anything in Garfield Gets Real.
Yes. Uh-huh.
March of the Penguins DS game. Wow.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
I am a licensed game enthusiast, so I know.
Clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Glad I learned that. Yeah. Well, speaking of bizarre, if you want to move on to the next movie, which is quite bizarre.
The actual good movie.
The actual good movie. A movie that's actually real as opposed to Garfield Gets Real.
Yeah. This time, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles get real.
That's right. Yeah, we're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 movie specifically, because I think there's like, a billion other things called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
but this is the 1990 movie, the good one.
The original.
The original.
So what is like your Turtles experience, if I may ask?
Very lackluster, honestly. I grew up knowing of Ninja Turtles. Like I knew of them, and I do remember watching some of like I think it was like a cartoon from like, was there a cartoon that came out in 2003 of Ninja Turtles?
That's the 2003 one.
I think I watched some of that. I don't remember any of it. I think the maximum amount of my turtle knowledge comes from watching whatever videos like the Nostalgia Critic did on Ninja Turtles. But I have seen a fair few things from Turtles. I've just never really been a diehard Ninja Turtles fan. But I've always known about them, and I've liked what I've seen for the most part. I will say this is probably one of my favorite things I've seen from the Ninja Turtles franchise. But even then, I can't really say I fell in love with this movie. I think if I watched this as a kid, I'd freaking adore it. But I think this is definitely one of those movies you kind of had to have watched growing up to truly appreciate it. But that said, I liked it. I thought it was fun. I could go on, but like honestly, you get the gist. Like, yeah, I think Ninja Turtles, it's never really been a thing I've been obsessed with, but from what I've seen, I do like some of it. But what's your Ninja Turtles backstory?
All right, so I'm actually kind of a big Turtles fan. Like I've consumed a lot of like the video games, the shows, and the movies, so I'm
Mhm.
really familiar with a lot of it. I will say also the 2003 series is a good watch. Like that is a
Mhm.
very, very good show. Even it's one of like the better 4 Kids series.
4 Kids.
Yeah. um and I've watched basically all the movies. And of course including the 90s one. And
Mhm.
while I do think this is not my favorite Turtles film, my personal favorite is still the 2007 one, even though I do say that it is a pretty flawed film. Like it has a lot of
Mhm.
flaws, and the 90s film is way more solid. I still think that the 2007 one is my favorite, but if I had to say like which one was the best one, I'd say the 90s one. Unless I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe the new one that's coming out later this year is better. I don't know. But
Yeah, some people are like really looking forward to that. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it looks like it's going to be pretty pleasing to fans. I don't know what to expect with it. I just didn't know they were making a new one until people were just like, "Yo, they're making a Spider-Verse Ninja Turtles." It's like, "They're making a what?" And then I saw the trailer. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I see."
Yeah. But I watched the 90s one. It was like I actually had like this 3-pack DVD set with the trilogy with 1, 2, and 3, and I watched
Mm,
2 the most
really?
just because 2 had Tokar and Razar in it, and I was like I really was big into seeing the turtles fight like other mutants, so that's the one I watched the
Okay.
most. Turtles 3 is so funny that it is when that is a movie that I'm like bizarre happened. um
It's a movie so good that the AVGN sliced his VHS tape of it
yeah,
with a sword.
I
I've only
remember.
seen the clip. I have not seen the actual video he made on that. I'm familiar enough that people don't like that movie, which I have seen the other sequels, but we can
Yeah,
maybe save that for
yeah, we'll
later.
save that for another time. But in terms of the original, I I think I watched the original like not as much as 2, but way more than 3. And
hmm
the original, like, it's still a pretty good movie. Do you know about its like crazy development though?
Um, so I think I do from what various videos I've seen on it. It's like so it didn't have like a set studio backing it. Like it was more of like an
It,
independent
yeah,
feature starting, and then like New Line stepped in to like distribute it. But yeah, like it was like considered at the time like one of the most expensive like independent movies at the time,
yeah,
if I'm remembering that correctly.
yeah, and like because no one wanted to make it, despite how like big it was. That was basically it. No one wanted to make this movie because like even though
Which
the
is weird
turtles
because like yeah, the Ninja Turtles were like
big with
everywhere. They
yeah
were huge.
yeah, but no,
Yeah.
this movie was like that no one wanted to make it. And I've read like stories of like how like really difficult it was for the actors in the suits
I mean,
were
yeah.
like a lot. I remember I think it was the scene with I think it was Mikey and Donnie who are just sitting in the sewers. I heard that took just an entire day for that scene.
Oh man, that's hell.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Wow.
I was even seeing in the film itself a couple of goofs. Like there's a scene with Raph and Leonardo, and in the corner you could just see a guy just crouched in the corner. Like,
Yeah,
and then there's also a scene where I think Donnie's mouth, and you can see inside the actors inside.
you can see the actor's mouth inside Donnie's mouth. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always point that out. I'm just like, oh, I can see it
Yeah.
every time.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it just had like a super crazy development. But for how it came about, I still think it holds up pretty well.
I
Like
think so too,
like
all
I
things considered.
like again, it's not it's still not my favorite Turtles film. I just like the '07 one a lot more. But this one, I think if you're like a Turtles fan, or even if you just want like a good solid movie, I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's
Yeah.
like it's still a pretty solid movie, I'd say.
for what it does in adapting like the Turtles story, if you will, like I think it does a good job in that it it doesn't go too big. Like it's a movie, but like this is such an odd franchise that you really can't do like so much in live action, especially at that time, and especially if it's like a quote unquote independent movie. Like you only can do so much. So I think with what they pull off, I think they do pretty well. I mean, I've heard like the comparisons of it to like Batman '89, and you can definitely see that, and like the way like it kind of establishes the city, and like the way you'll see like the way the turtles are and like the shadows at nighttime, like it's very heavily inspired, but in a way that doesn't feel like it's ripping off Batman '89, because it still feels like a Turtles film. In that, you know, we still get the turtles acting in their ways, even though each one of them has like a distinct personality. They still have like the group of them themselves have a personality, in that they're goofy teenagers kicking ass. Like you definitely get that with this movie. I will say, like, you definitely get the sense that this was made by people who love these characters and love this franchise, while also making sacrifices in adapting it to be a movie.
Yeah. I will also say I do like how how the turtles looked in this. Like obviously obviously they do kind of get worse as the sequels go on. Like if you looked at the suits in Turtles 3, oh my god, they look atrocious.
I love the when the Nostalgia Critic did like videos on like the specials they did, and like the suits just look god awful. Like they have like the same smile in every scene where they're just like, let's go celebrate Christmas, and it's just like the worst looking puppets you have ever seen in anything.
Yeah, like there's so many really awful looking turtle suits out there. There was one, I know there was like a special about like this train thing, and the suits, oh my god.
I remember seeing that somewhere on the internet. I can't remember, but like I'm just like, my god, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, they got really bad. But the first film, they looked pretty good. Like I think
it's Jim Henson.
Yeah.
It's Jim Henson Company working on them. So yeah, they're gonna be freaking kick ass.
Yeah.
Like they look great.
And shouts to the Splinter puppet too. Like that.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good too. Like it's
it's performed and voiced by Kevin Clash Elmo.
Yeah.
But also the puppet looks amazing. Like it looks like it does look like it was made by the Jim Henson Company.
Yeah, like this film just kind of it's aged like pretty well. Like like how they look, it still looks really good.
Effects wise, yes, it has aged very well. Everything else, it's kind of aged a bit. Like it's a very late 80s, early 90s looking movie.
Yeah. I think I remember,
for the best possible way, like in the best possible way, it looks like it's from the late 80s, early 90s. Like it has a charm to it.
Because I remember, like, I think it was AVGN or James Rolfe. I think I remember him saying this perfect thing about it, where it was like it was the transition from the 80s to the 90s. This movie,
yes, which is pretty telling, because it's like it literally came out in 1990. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's what it kind of feels like. I do also like how they kind of combine both the comic and the cartoon with this movie. You know, you got the colored bandanas from the cartoon. You also have the darker backstory from the comic, although it's not entirely the same, because in the comic it's not Oroku Saki who's in love with Amato Yoshi's wife. It's his brother, and it's way more darker, because that's more about vengeance.
Right.
This one is like, you know, Shredder's obviously the bad guy, Splinter is the good guy, but in the comic, it's more murky. It's a lot more black and white.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you can't kind of blame both. They both like kind of hate each other for good reason. But in the movie, yeah, obviously Orokosagi is 100% the bad guy, while Splinter is the good guy. It's kind of
I guess they didn't want to be too confusing because this is a kids movie.
Yeah, they want to make it more lighthearted, which I get.
Yeah, exactly. Which I feel like a darker tone would have been super cool, but like, I mean, you kind of get that with the visuals and the fact that like you see like little kids smoking in this movie. Like, literally, there's that scene. It's like the Pleasure Island scene from Pinocchio, where like these kids are just like playing arcade games, they're playing pool, they're smoking cigarettes, they're eating junk food, they're watching bad movies. It's just like, oh, this place looks awesome. I wish I could do this. Oh wait, I'm an adult. I can do this anyway. It's like, it really gets you in that mindset of like, whoa, this is so cool. But obviously it's not good for you because you're being a degenerate, because the reason you're doing all this is because you're committing crimes. It's like, oh, well, that's not a good thing. So, but like, yeah, that's the point of the movie.
Yeah. I do also think the fighting looks pretty good too. Like the martial arts, it's still, again, it looks pretty good.
Not only is it impressive martial arts, it's impressive that they're doing these martial arts in these stupid turtle costumes. Like, and they're making it look natural. Like that cannot be easy to do. Like you're doing you're doing like this insane martial arts and fighting skills while dressed as a ninja turtle. Like that's got to be so difficult. And no wonder, like, you know, it took a long time to film this, and like it was like such a crazy behind the scenes production.
Yeah, it was a nightmare from what I read. I also like the soundtrack is really good. Like it's super dark and like it just fits the tone of the film really well.
It knows when to be sinister and it knows when to be lighthearted and goofy, for sure. Yeah, it's a very good balance for what it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I also wonder, like, when like if like a kid who's like more familiar with the newer turtle stuff watches this for the first time and he's surprised to hear the turtles swear.
Yeah, Raphael is just like, damn.
Yeah, and I think Mikey says that too, like watching the TV.
Oh, at one point, Raphael says bitchin', like at the end when they're just like celebrating. He's just like, bitchin'. I'm just like, excuse me? Like,
yeah.
Whoa, you could get away with a lot in 1990.
Yeah, it's something.
It's something. I'm glad it was something.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a solid movie. I mean, I don't have a huge lot to say about it just because it's mostly a solid movie.
I could come up with like nitpicks and criticisms, but it's just like, I don't know if I'm really going to this movie like expecting something super deep and meaningful. I will say there are some scenes that like I thought were done really well. Like we mentioned earlier, there's that scene where like Mikey and Donnie are like down in the sewers, and like how it's kind of establishing Donnie just being like, hey, Mikey, you ever really think about what Splinter was saying when he says he might be gone? But like Mikey just kind of ignores him, you know, and you're just like, oh, Mikey, you're just such a child. But then like later in the movie, that comes back when like they hear Splinter for the first time and like they're like meditating and Splinter appears in like the campfire and then he disappears and you look at Mikey and they went the extra mile of like making it look like Michelangelo is crying. Because he's hearing his master for the first time. It's like, holy shit, like what a great scene in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of all movies. Like it's done really, really well.
Yeah, that is a fantastic scene. Shredder was really good in this.
He's not played by Philip Banks, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's great in this. There's not like a ton of scenes with him, like as much as I remember, but he was still pretty good. But one thing I did I don't know if I want to. You've seen? Did you say you've seen 2 and 3?
I have seen 2 and 3.
Okay. It's kind of
not as often as the first one, but I have seen 2 and 3.
It's kind of interesting to think that the Turtles never really beat Shredder. Because, like, in the first film, only Splinter defeats him. And then the second one, Shredder, or Super Shredder in this case, he just basically kills himself.
Oh yeah,
So,
I remember that vaguely, but that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're under the boardwalk and he becomes Super Shredder.
And it just falls on him.
Yeah. So
oh yeah.
so really, the Turtles never actually beat Shredder in any of these movies, which I find kind of, I don't know, just kind of an interesting detail.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, in fact, the only Turtles movie where they've actually beaten Shredder is the 2014 movie.
Well, isn't that the one where like technically April defeats Shredder because she's the one who like kicks him?
Oh yeah, that's right. and then I was about to say there was also Turtles Forever, but that's technically not true, as Bebop and Rocksteady kill Shredder in that.
Oh wow! So is Shredder going to be in the new Ninja Turtles movie, the Mutant Mayhem?
They haven't confirmed that he's in it. They haven't said like if he's gonna be like the villain or not. It seems like it's gonna be like Baxter Stockman's gonna be the villain.
Okay.
But that's kind of it. I don't know if maybe they're gonna push him for like at the end of the movie, like as an end credit thing.
It'll be like either an end credit scene or it'll be like that scene in the Batman where the Joker shows up as like a unnamed Arkham asylum prisoner, like whatever, like when he's talking to like Riddler. Yeah, they'll probably do something like that. I mean, Shredder is like so synonymous with the Ninja Turtles. Like you really can't have a movie with them and not Shredder, I feel like. As an outsider with the Ninja Turtles franchise, I feel like not including Shredder in a Ninja Turtles thing would be like having Batman but not having the Joker show up, like I just said with at the end of the Batman.
I can see where you're coming from with that. There have been like a couple of instances where Shredder is not the villain, like the third Turtles movie, he wasn't in it at all. In the 6th season of the 2003 series, Shredder was not the villain at all in that. He was like only for like cameos. And I remember and sometimes in a few series he's like turned out to be like a demon. Like there's some weird Shredder gets some weird stuff in the
Demon
series.
Shredder.
Yeah. Like I think in the 2003 series there's like 3 different versions of Shredder.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Demon Shredder, where?
Yeah, the Shredder stories get wacky.
Yeah,
but in a good kind of way.
I can imagine with a series called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you're gonna get some wacky stories.
Yeah, there's so much crazy stuff, but yeah. Back to the 90s movie. It's still good. I mean,
yeah, I
don't have anything else to really say about it. It's a good movie.
Yeah, like I was saying, as many nitpicks and criticisms as I could probably come up with, they don't really bother me that much because, like, even though I didn't grow up with this, I understand why people have such a fondness for this movie. I think it's good. I am glad I have this DVD of it in my collection. If you have nothing else to say about the movie itself, we can get into talking about the DVD.
Yeah, we could. I also watched the DVD of it, although I watched it on my PS2.
Oh, you watched it on your PS2?
Yeah, just to get that kind of...
To get that real nostalgia going.
Yeah, although I didn't have a PS2 when I was growing up. I just decided to use an old DVD type player.
You know, it's funny. I didn't have a PS2 growing up, but I have a PS2 like right under my TV because I found it like someday. I'm just like, oh, sweet, and I just got it. But anyway, yeah. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have the original movie on DVD. I remember how I got this. I was in Walmart and I saw the DVD bin, and I got like a bunch of DVDs from there, and the only ones that I probably still have to this day from that trip to Walmart is the Ninja Turtles one and a 3-pack of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And I obviously found this because like it was super bright. Like it has like this bright green cover to it. It just looks like, yeah, it stands out amongst like, you know, the other generic geezer teasers and whatever other crappy movies they have like in the Walmart DVD bin. Unfortunately, looking at this box, like it's really crappy. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with like DVDs that do this where they have like the case like edged out, like they have like the recycling logo, or they have like a circle like just like cut out of the case, and so then it makes like the box like flimsier, you know what I'm trying to say?
I'm trying to remember. You're not talking about when it's like you're not talking about where it's like just the character's face in front of it, the cover, right?
No. I'm not talking about like the cover. I'm talking about like the actual case itself. Like the actual thing that holds the disc. They like sometimes will just cut out holes and like make them. I don't know why they do this. Like I've talked about this before on the podcast where they just like cut out like little shapes in the actual case itself. And so then you can like open it and you can like feel the actual cover from the inside of the case. It's like really weird, and I don't know why DVDs used to do that. But it leads to like a really flimsy case.
Yeah, I don't know if my case did that because mine's from a really old release. It's like from that 3-pack with the other movies, and it's like in this white case.
Yeah, I remember you sending me a picture of it, and it has like the same cover as mine.
Yeah.
It looks like a DVD from the 2000s. Like, yeah, that thing looks really cool.
Yeah. It's decent. There's not like a ton of extras to it, at least on mine. Like, there's just like some little games here and there and like some galleries. There's no like, I didn't see there was any like commentaries or behind the scenes videos.
Oh yeah, no, this one also has original sewer maze interactive game played with your DVD remote control. I forgot when DVDs tried to have games on them.
Yeah, I remember I had this Lilo and Stitch DVD. It was based off one of the direct-to-DVD movies called Leroy and Stitch, and it had like a game with it was like a ship mini game, and I played that a lot.
Yeah, I think the last interactive DVD game I played was on a Goofy movie DVD, and it was like a trivia game of like, oh, do you remember what happened in the movie? And I 100%ed it because of course I know that movie inside and out actually. So yeah, no, but that's cool. So like your DVD has the exact same thing. So does your DVD, so it's in that white case, you're saying it doesn't have like a hole edged out in it or anything like that?
I want to say no. I mean, I could try and check, but it's in my closet right now.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, because like honestly, if it's not that, I mean, I feel like a white case would still be kind of aesthetically cool.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I like this movie. I think it's cool that it has all these like simple extras. I don't really need like super in-depth behind the scenes extras for a movie like this because I'm not like a huge Ninja Turtles fan. But like as I was watching it this time around, I'm like, wow, this is a great movie. Or it was a good movie. I just wish it was on a better DVD than what I have it on. I like the cover. I like the movie, but like the case, man, it really, really sucks that it's just not a very well-made case. But from what it sounds like your DVD is a lot nicer, and I kind of would prefer to have that in my collection, honestly.
Yeah, I think my DVD case is all right enough. Like it gets the job. Just don't try to get like the one where it's like just the turtle's face in front.
Oh yeah, that's super lame.
Like those are so lame. You don't get. I mean, I'm not gonna say the DVD cover is amazing looking, but man, there's so much character to that.
Yeah, it's charming. Like it has that kind of like it's a little crappy, but like I kind of like how crappy it is. Like it's just because it's trying, because you have like the live action turtles and you can see like the outline of them, and like you just have the title just being like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's like it's simple and charming, but like in a way that's like fun. Whereas like what you're saying with when it's just like a character's floating head, like I hate when like Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks movies do that. Like it's so terrible. It's just like God.
Mm-hmm. Like
it sucks the fun out of the movie. Like it just makes the movie part of a corporate brand at that point.
Yeah, I'm just never been a big fan of those DVDs. I have one of like the first Madagascar, and it's so much lamer than the original DVD case, because I remember I had this really nice looking DVD case with like all the characters in it, and now I just have this like generic one with just Marty and Alex and like a generic background. It's so much lamer.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
But so I will say, so from what it sounds like, this sounds like your DVD is my DVD but cooler. Honestly, I'm getting rid of this DVD. It's been in my collection for a while actually, but I'm just not as attached to it. I mean, it's sad because like I do remember when I bought it, and I think it's a cool design for the cover, and I do like the movie. It's just that I don't know. I'd rather have it on a nicer DVD and in a nicer case than what I have it on currently. So it's a definite keep for the collection. Even though I'm not a huge Ninja Turtles fan, I could watch it again, honestly. And I think, it's a good movie to like put on. Like if I'm ever bored, I'm just like, I feel like watching Ninja Turtles. I'll watch Ninja Turtles. So it's a definite keep for the collection. But as for this actual actual DVD, nah, it's not staying.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That DVD just sounds really rough.
Yeah. So you're gonna keep yours?
Oh yeah. I do want to try and get back into DVD collecting soon, since it's been a while. Mm-hmm. I mostly try and collect like animated shows and anime movies. But I am obviously keeping my DVD, since it's part of my little Turtles DVD collection. And it's
nice.
It's perfect. It still works perfectly fine. I for some reason have 2 copies of Turtles 2 though. I don't know why.
Oh, popping up like madness.
Yeah, I mean, I did watch that movie a lot, but not enough.
Yeah,
to get
maybe
2
that's
copies
why.
Of. Yeah.
You watched two different DVDs at the same time of that movie.
Yeah. I think maybe I got like, because I remember I got that 3-pack, and then I got Turtles. Actually, I think I got Turtles 2 before I got that 3-pack. Then I got the 3-pack.
Then you got the 3-pack.
And then I remember giving away Turtles 3 because I hated that movie so much as a kid, and so I sold it at that this big DVD thing where my family was getting rid of a bunch of old DVDs before we moved, and then later on I did re-get Turtles 3 at like a bargain bin for like $1.
Yeah.
So just so it's there with the collection, I didn't want to exclude it, especially since I got some really funny stuff in that collection. Like I have open season and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. I used to have all the open season movies. I remember I went to my local Bull Moose because that's the local store I frequent a lot, and that's where a lot of my movies have come from. And I bought all 4 of them from there. And then I must have returned them after a while because I'm just like, I'm just not as married to the bit. And I kind of regret that because I really should have made an open season episode. But you know what? I guess it's never too late because I can always just go back and buy all 4 of them again and make an episode on them. So
open season sweep.
Oh God, the open season sweep is real.
Yeah.
It's more real than Garfield gets real, that's for sure.
Yes. Open season sweep.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, if you're done talking about Ninja Turtles, I'm done talking about Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
We can get into the wrap up.
Yeah.
All right, cowabunga, dude. Omega, please shout out your stuff. Where can people find you?
Well, you guys can find me on my YouTube channel known as Crystal Omega. I basically review a bunch of licensed games, both good and bad, to find the hidden gems and to see just what's interesting around that. And maybe occasionally talk about other things, but as of right now, I talk about a lot of licensed games. My most recent video, funny thing, at the time of us recording this, is TMNT 2 Battle Nexus, so
Hey,
check that
look
out.
at us. Yeah, look at us with the crossover and that and such.
And I'm also on Twitter, and I post a couple things here and there. So, and you can find all that stuff below.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description below. For show.
And thank you so much for having me here. This was really fun, aside from my internet acting up, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. I've had this. You are not the first person to cause me to pause the recording halfway through, for sure.
Yeah.
It's happened before. It's totally fine. Or maybe I'll edit in I'll fix it in editing. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. No, this was awesome. I love talking about Garfield and Ninja Turtles, two franchises I've never really been the biggest fan of, but I know enough of that I was excited to talk about them today.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's 2 movies out of the collection, but hey, that's what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. This was awesome.
This was really fun. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and thank you, the audience, for listening. If you want to support the show, give a like, give a comment, give a DM me the word strawberries, just cause. That tells me you listen to the end of this. If you want to listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or on YouTube, you can listen to us on YouTube. I'm not going to judge, whatever. But yeah, thanks for watching, and always remember Garfield. He got real.
And the turtles got real.
And the turtles got real. All of us, we got real. Okay, real. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right, I hope you have an amazing day. Take care. Bye. Just